Hey everybody, welcome to Life with the Lyons. My name is Rob. I'm here as always with my sisters, Tiffany, Holly, Coco, and we have some special guests today joining us for the show.
Come on.
We got
Our
Eddie and
parents.
Cindy Lyons, our parents, the original Lyons family. Welcome to our show.
Thanks
guys.
for having us.
Thank you.
Oh
Glad to
man,
be a part of this.
you guys are awesome.
We love your podcast. You know, we will be the ones to watch when no one else does.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You're just going to be watching yourself saying that, which is awesome.
That's
Listen,
good. Yes.
you got to get yourself some people in your life like our parents. One time, Tiffany and I and the girls threw a party at Tiffany's house, and it was like a fancy party. We like made an incredible thing. Like it was awesome.
It's really
and
gonna be a
no
good
one
thing.
showed up.
It's embarrassing that now you know about this.
No one showed up to it, and it wasn't because we were not cool, because we were so cool. It was. I think they just had a lot. It was just like a perfect storm of excuses
Yeah.
that came through, and so we had like a party with no one to come. And so what do? We called our parents,
We
They
did.
showed up.
and they showed
and
up.
they brought the party.
and we had a good time.
It was
True.
so great.
So thank you for showing up to this party as well. It's
One
a
time
good-
at work, I had to do a Facebook Live, and I didn't know if anybody was on. But the beautiful thing is, the only person watching this Facebook Live was Mom. Mom,
Hey,
Mom,
shout
thank
out.
you so
Shout out
much.
to the Facebook queen.
Shout out! Listen, I post stuff on Facebook all the time, and for my young adult ministry that I lead. And do we have a lot of young adults who like the Facebook page? No. Do we have my mom who's always liking and commenting on it? Yeah,
Every
we do.
individual photo gets a personal like. And I
Absolutely.
appreciate that about you, Mom.
Absolutely.
I appreciate
We
that.
call her the Facebook Queen.
You are the Facebook queen.
Yeah.
So thank you for being here. Today, we just wanted to talk around the subject of James. We talked about how much he's impacted our family, but you guys bring such a unique perspective. We talked about how, as a sibling group, it's impacted all of us. But really, so much of how we have perceived the gift of James has come from the leadership of you all. Can you guys bring us back to the beginning? Tell us, what was it like when James first got here?
Well, James is our fifth child. Same doctor, same hospital in Manila, same place. And so, I thought, I've been here, done that. Everything's going to be good. And so James was born early that morning. And then after an hour or so, Cindy was recovering and coming out of her sedation, and she said, "I want to see my baby." So, of course, I found a nurse and asked if they could please bring the baby so that Cindy could see the baby. So I remember carrying James up to her and putting him close to her, and she stroked his brow, and then she said, "Eddie, is everything okay? He doesn't look like the rest of the kids." And I remember, I said, no, he's fine. Everything's good. I checked him out. He's good. But in that moment, a dagger went through my heart I can't explain because, moms know stuff. Mm-hmm. And then it wasn't very long later that day that the doctor came into our room. And it was so amazing because, the way she opened the door, the gait of her step, her demeanor, the way she talked, I knew something was wrong. And I didn't know what it was. And then she told us what she thought the diagnosis was. It wasn't but a couple days later that another doctor came in, and he read a list of all of the potential limitations and pretty much, had to tell us what couldn't happen, what might not happen, what life with him would be like. And it scared me so much. Here's my baby boy. And now I don't even know how to be his father. I don't know what to do. And I was so sad. And we were in such a dark space.
We were like, I think, a lot of families. When they first get the diagnosis, you're shocked, whether you get it before the baby's born or afterwards. And I had never met anyone with Down syndrome before. So I had no idea. This was a whole new world. And I had no idea what this little baby in my arms would be like. What he could do, what he couldn't do, and he was so precious and so sweet, and we just loved him. But we were going through stages of grief, I think, and we didn't have the resources to tell us, what to do or what to expect, and it was only negative. And I just remember, we were just in such a dark space, and when we first got the diagnosis, I started saying, well, it must be because I'm a bad mother. And I started just, taking it on myself. What did I do wrong that would cause my baby to have this? And my dear, dear friend Laura took my face and said, Cindy, you're not a bad mother. You're going to be okay. We're going to love this baby, and he's going to be fine. We're going to take care of this baby. You didn't do anything wrong. And I've come to find out that a lot of mothers think that they got a child with special needs because they did something wrong. And that's not always the case, but we all go there, it seems like, at some point. And I was so thankful for the friend that just took my face and said, no, you didn't do anything wrong. And we're going to love this baby. And I think that's so important when you first get a diagnosis, for your friends to surround you and tell them, we're gonna love this baby too. It doesn't matter what this baby has. We're going to love this baby. And that's what my friend Laura and our family did for us. And then we started meeting people who had children with special needs, and hearing their stories and learning more about Down syndrome and everything helped us to understand kind of the journey that we were on. But at first, we were just like everyone else that gets this diagnosis. We had no idea what this journey would be like.
Dad, you mentioned how you guys were in a dark place.
Yeah.
And talk to us about where you were mentally, spiritually, emotionally with this whole thing coming on you really quickly.
I think that we live our lives with this ideal of what we feel like our life is going to be like. And then all of a sudden, I have James, and I love this little guy, but my heart was breaking for what his life would be like and how difficult it could be for him. And I wanted to solve it. And so I remember I just, here I am, a missionary. I get up and I preach to people every Sunday, but I'm not okay. And I remember that I would beg God, and I say, God, I believe you could heal him. Would you please heal him? Please heal him. And I begged God to do that. And then the diagnosis came, and it dawns on me that my life will never be the same, because this is not something that can be healed. This is a new world in which I'm going to have to live. And honestly, I was not happy with God's decision, and I would complain. I called it praying, but I was pretty much just complaining. I mean, this went on for 9 months. My wife is an angel. I mean, she's full of faith. Me, not so much. And I remember one day I was walking, and I had been complaining and in this dark space for a long time. And as I was praying, I was out in a place where nobody else was. There were no houses there. And I remember I had this moment where it's like the Lord in my spirit said, I'm God and you're not. And if I'm going to give a child like this with special needs, I don't have to ask permission, because I'm God. And you can either fight me, raise clenched fists in anger, or you can open palm in surrender and ask for the help you're going to need. And I honestly stopped. Good thing there was nobody around and there were no houses, because I began to sob like a baby. And I said, okay, God, it's clear I'm not in control of my life or this circumstance, and I have no idea what to do, but I am asking you to forgive me, and I open my palms in surrender, and I ask you to show me, pick me up, help me to do this.
Yeah.
I had an incredible peace flood me. I can't explain it. Yeah. For people who want to be in control, and you got to achieve and accomplish, and all of a sudden things are out of control, and there's nothing you can do to fix it, the most freeing thing that we can do is to surrender. And the peace came.
So tell us about what it was like having James in the early years.
Well, when we discovered that he did have Down syndrome, and I'm going to go back a little bit, and we got that diagnosis and didn't really have positive input, from the professionals, and we didn't know anything. I just remember Eddie turning to the book of James. I think he was about the second day, because we had named him James. And so he went to the book of James in the Bible, and he started he started reading, and it says, "Consider it all joy when all of these things happen. These things that you're not expecting, these things that hurt your heart, these things that shake you. Consider it all joy." And I felt that the Holy Spirit just spoke so clearly to me, and I felt like he said this, that Cindy, you've been on a faith journey for a long time. When I've asked you to do this, you did it. When I've asked you to be a missionary, you said yes. When I asked you to go back to the Philippines as a missionary, you said yes. You trusted me. This is a new point in your faith journey that I'm asking you to believe me and trust me, that this is my assignment from God to you, and he is going to bring you more joy than you can ever imagine. And I remember asking God, Lord, okay, we can do this. I'm going to say yes to you, and I'm going to trust that you're going to give me what I need to raise this baby. But two things I'm asking. Lord, would you please show me what he needs, and then help him to be able to communicate what he needs to me, because show me how I can make him happy, and so those were my two prayers. Lord, show me how to make him happy, how to do what I need to do as this baby, has challenges. And I have to say, God started answering that prayer so soon after that, after the crisis that we went through. He started thriving, and I started seeing that he was able to show. We were able to communicate even without words. And God just showed up so strongly, and I had that peace that Eddie describes, that it was going to be okay. And I started to be able to look at James as, he's my boy, he's my baby boy, and this, yes, he has Down syndrome, but he's my baby boy.
So what was like life in the early years of James? We know that there is some different things that he needed doctor-wise, physical therapy, occupational therapy, some different doctors and medical needs that, we didn't necessarily need as babies. And so I know that there's some challenges with that. So tell us a little bit about that experience.
So I was in a brand new world I had never even been a part of at all. So when the doctor is saying, well, he's going to need a speech therapist, and I was thinking, well, I mean, you know what? Are we really concerned that this baby's not talking? He's only 2 months old. And then I discovered, no. Even the development of the suck, swallow, breathe, the tongue movement, all of that had to be prompted. When they said he's going to need an occupational therapist, and I'm so ignorant, I'm thinking, what? None of our kids had a job at 2 months old. I don't know what we're worried about here.
Listen, we know about the Lord and the church. We don't know about the medical field. We don't know about a lot of this stuff, all right?
And so I begin to understand. Okay, that's fine motor skills, and then the physical therapist is the large motor skills. So now we're in the Philippines, and we've got to find all of these professionals that we never had to look for before with any of the other kids. Your development was like automatic; it just happened.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah,
Thanks for saying that about me.
But with all these new things that we were finding out what he needed, and we bought books, and we bought, we had gone to the States because his suck, swallow, breathe didn't work, and he just almost didn't make it. And while we were there, we really learned a lot about what he needed, and we went back to the Philippines because we were missionaries there, just asking God, show us where to find this, because it was brand new in the Philippines at the time. And so the University of the Philippines had just started really training therapists, and they were all good, but there weren't enough of them. And so we found we were told about a developmental specialist who had just come back from London, and she was the only one. And she was teaching that also in the University of Philippines. And so we went to her. It was just like God provided one step at a time in a place that they really didn't have enough therapists. And so she organized our program for us, and she sent us to these people. But we only could see them once a month or once a quarter, every quarter. And then there were no speech therapists. And so we would just start praying, and it was amazing. Like, we could write a book on how God supplied for James. And if we thought that, James was less than, or we thought that God didn't care because he didn't he couldn't do these things. We found out that God cared about our little James so much that he provided each one of these therapists that we needed. And like, for example, we only could see a physical therapist once a month, and that wasn't enough. And so we were in a subdivision that we were like the 6th house to be built. And then the 7th house, we found out that the daughter was a physical therapist. So I took James down there and it was like, could you work with him on Saturdays when you're not working? And she did. And she did that for several years. And then we needed an occupational therapist, and that was once a quarter. That wasn't enough. And so we began to hear that there was a new missionary coming from Australia, and his wife was an occupational therapist. And we're talking about a city of 25 million people. She lived in our subdivision.
Wow.
In Valley Golf, and she came to the house every week and worked with him. And then we needed a speech therapist. There was none.
And we didn't have Kyla yet, my wife,
No,
who's a
yes,
speech therapist.
yes.
So
That would have been
shout out
great.
Kyla.
Yes. And Eddie called me one day and said, Cindy, right across from our church in this city of 25 million people, there is a sign up that they're going to start a therapy center, which was unheard of at the time. Go visit it. So I did, and there was a speech therapist. And
Wow.
she was wonderful. And we took him every week to the speech therapist, and she was so great. And Coco would go with us to all of our therapies, and then we would do it with him at home. And then our developmental specialist said, well, you know, he's 2.5. This would be a great time for him to go to a preschool. There's one I'm thinking of, but boy, it's pretty far. I said, where is it? And they said, Valley Golf. I said, I live in Valley Golf.
Wow.
So I went and visited with a teacher, and she was amazing,
So
Teacher
good.
Powell. And I asked her, I said, do you have any little ones that come that are nonverbal? And she said, oh, they're all nonverbal. And she said, I do whatever I have learned from when I went to school. But she says, I also put my hands on them and pray for them. And every one of them had talked. And I was in tears by this time, you know, thinking, God, you love my little boy so much that you, in this big city, it's 5 minutes away from my house. And so we saw God provide one thing after another, and James started to just thrive. And he was in little plays, and he was in little shows, and we got to meet a lot of people. Then we got involved with the Down Syndrome Association of the Philippines, and we met many people with children with Down syndrome, and we started a support group, and it was just like this club that we joined that we never planned to join. And we started seeing that we could really help other parents, and it was a new mission field for us. And those early years were just like, we were in awe of how God loved our little guy so much. He provided for him in a place that really didn't have, you know, all those things. And we saw him just blossom. And then in the company of his sisters and brother, he just started blossoming. And we just saw his little personality come out. And it was a beautiful thing.
You know, one of my favorite moments was one of the things that I've read is not uncommon, is I wondered when he was an infant, will people like my baby, or will they not want to be around my baby? Okay.
Yeah.
And so, so here I'm trying to like figure out how people are going to treat this little guy. You know, I want to protect him. And we get a call from another missionary kid in the school where my children attended. All of you were attending. And the question was, hey, we are preparing for the Christmas pageant. So remember, he's born in July. This is December. And we need a baby to be baby Jesus. Can we borrow James to be baby Jesus? And I'm like...
Which is, I mean, to get that role right out the gate.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's
I mean,
downhill from there.
that's pretty
You
good.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so when James came out in the arms of this Mary person that was our friend, and then the song that they played, I could not stop crying. This is the words. God is too wise to be mistaken. God is too good to be unkind. So when you don't understand and you can't trace his plan, trust his heart. Oh, my goodness. I'm a weeping fool.
Why are the Lyons family sobbing on the front row? Can we get them out of here? That's what they were doing.
But those were tokens, like God saying, I got you.
during that song, we just kind of felt like we were in the presence of God, and He was assuring us that He is with us. He loves this baby. And then I started hearing, I mean, we were all crying because it was such a sacred moment. And then I just heard just like a rustle through the whole gym. I kept hearing this, that's the Lyons baby. That's the Lyons baby. And you know, that whole community just, their hearts turned towards James because they all knew that he had been born and that he had special needs. And it was just like God saying, you have a whole community here that loves this little boy, and your church loves him, and your family loves him. And you know, everybody that would meet James just seemed to have such a heart for him. And we just felt the favor of God just poured out on us that day, and it continues till today.
Yeah. What are some things that you love about James?
I love his fierce independence. This boy has a plan every day. He writes notes after notes after notes. She comes and tells me what I'm supposed to preach. He has a plan for everything. But one of my favorite things is that he's also naughty at times.
Yes, he is.
So I remember one night, it was about midnight, and we got a phone call, and it was our neighbor. And I could only hear Cindy's side of the conversation, but Cindy was saying to her, "Oh no, Ashley, James is in bed. It can't be James." So, I mean, what was she saying on the phone?
She was saying, Miss Cindy, James is here, and I think you need to come and get him. He wants to spend the night. And this is our good friends, that would not be totally out of the thing. But I was like, oh, no, Ashley, he's in bed. The alarm is on. And then she says, oh, no, he's here. So I wake up Eddie and say, hey, you got to go get James. And I looked in his room, and he had put pillows where his body would have been sleeping.
That boy.
And he had the window was open, and he had put out a chair. He was very premeditated. And he escaped out of the window, which he was very fond of doing at that time. The real thing about that is they elope. That means they always escape. And so he was into that a lot. But this was like, my goodness, 12 o'clock at night. And so Eddie went and got him, brought him home. And I was just praying, Lord, what do I do? Because my heart was just beating like that boy escaped at midnight and was down the street. What if he, and all the things. And so I just was like, Lord, what do I say? And then God gave me this, because he's afraid of dogs. and I said, James, and I didn't want to be so upset with him that if he did it again, he would be afraid to come back. So I said, James, we were so afraid for you. We didn't know where you were. We were so upset, and you know what? There's dogs out there. And he never did that again.
But he was wanting to move to the Wilsons because the Wilsons were so good to him and loved him so well. We disciplined him and made him do what he was supposed to
and
do.
she had pop for him every time.
Oh, they spoiled him.
Yeah. James, like Eddie said, he's always got a plan. He is so compassionate. If somebody's hurting, or somebody, like I was hurting and not feeling good, and he just sat me down. He says, Mom, I pray for you. And he put his hand on my head and started praying for my pain. And just, he's so compassionate and so sweet and so sincere. And I can hear him sometimes in his bedroom, and he'll be saying things like this, God, it's me, James. And he'll start praying for all of you guys. He starts praying for his friends. He prays for his dad. He prays for whatever's on his heart. And he goes on. And he's very, very sincere and compassionate. And I just love that in him. He's witty. He's so funny. He makes us laugh every day.
He's probably one of the most socially aware people
Oh
that
my
I
goodness.
know.
Yeah.
So
Like,
aware.
if he walks into a room and people are a little bit more somber, he matches the mood.
Yeah.
And he comes around and he's just kind. But if people are like, yeah, whatever, he's like the life of the party.
Yeah.
Oh, he is
Yeah.
a party animal. Like, he loves to party. And what's awesome is every moment is a party for him. It's
Yeah.
a party
It
in the
is.
waiting.
Yeah.
I love, there's just some stories that have gone down like as legends that we talk about all the time. But I think about when James was in kindergarten and God gave him like a really great kindergarten teacher. We had made it back to the States at this point, and James just always did some really funny things at school. But there was this one time where you got word at some point that something had happened on a field trip, and the person heard the story and said, "That sounds like my pastor's son."
Yeah.
And it could be him. And so tell us that story and what happened.
Well, they had gone to a field trip, and I think it was near a lake. And his friend that he just adored, I don't know why, he pushed her in.
I was actually at a phone place to buy a phone, and somebody was talking, and they said, there's this little girl that got pushed into the lake nearby, and immediately I thought, because the mother came in to replace the phone, and I'm like, wow, I sure hope that wasn't James. It was James.
Oh boy.
For some reason,
Yeah,
he pushed her.
yeah.
One of my favorite moments, though, was one day he came to me and he wanted money to buy pop out of the vending machine. He loves vending machines.
Who doesn't?
And he doesn't have a strong understanding of what a dollar is compared to what is a $5 or a $20. And so he asked for some money, and I didn't have a dollar. And I said, James, I'm sorry, I don't have a dollar. And he was very disappointed. And then I noticed he ran back to his room for a minute, and then he came back out and got on the bus, and all was well. And then I went back to my bedroom, and I noticed my wallet was open. Now, I don't do this anymore, but at that time, I had tucked away a $100 bill in my wallet, and I began to look, and it was gone.
Oh boy.
And I thought, oh my goodness, that vending machine is going to sell the most valuable pop they ever have because he doesn't know. So I went immediately to his school, and I walked into his classroom, and I said, can I talk to James for a minute? Yeah. James, did you get money out of my wallet? And he looks at me and he goes, yep. And I said, well,
Not gonna lie to you, Dad. I did it.
where is it? And he pats his pocket. Right here. I said, oh, you'll still have it. Yep. I said, give me that money. So he hands me the $100 bill, and I'm like a heartless father. I'm sad. I told you no, and I left. He didn't buy any pop that day. He was always so independent and so fun.
Wasn't there a story, Mom, where he wanted to impress a girl and he grabbed
Yes.
something from yours?
Oh, yes. I got a call from in high school. He just loved the girls. And so they called, and the teacher called and said, Cindy, there is a very nice necklace. I don't think it's cheap. That James brought and gave to a girl, and she kind of knew that probably it wasn't really for her, and so she brought it to us to kind of help decipher what in the world's going on. And so I went up there, and sure enough, it was a very nice necklace from my mother-in-law with pearls and things in it, and so I had to talk to him and find out, did you get more jewelry? Was this the only one? and he had found a box and gave it to her. I mean, he just
Oh my gosh.
you never knew. You just never knew what was
I think-
He
next.
loves the
think-
finer things.
Absolutely.
He
And well,
knows.
he has what the kids call Riz.
I remember there was a season where we discovered a
Yes.
library of videos that James had been recording on the MacBook, and it was incredible. It was filled with so many things, including things that he was not supposed to do. And one of my favorite videos is, I think it's like on Facebook somewhere now, but is he's just sitting there recording himself. He has a tub of peanut butter, and he's eating the peanut butter and just like enjoying it. Like, it's just like you can hear just like how amazing every bite
Smacking,
is. He's
yeah.
smacking. It's incredible. And the best part is, like, we were all using that peanut butter. We had no idea what
He
was
says
going down.
delicious.
I can put it. Delicious.
On this.
Delicious.
That is a family prize that we have that. One thing during COVID, he really does, like, he has classes that he does now, and he does stuff. But he didn't have that during COVID. But he kept himself busy still. And one day I was looking on his iPad, and he decided he's a man with a mission, and he just knows how to make things happen.
Yes.
And so I looked on his iPad, and he had put on every single shirt he owns, and he took a picture, and then he put the jacket on, took a picture, and I was like, this is gold. And so he literally just took inventory of his whole entire closet, and that kept him busy for quite some time.
Honestly,
and we got to see the benefit of, wow, like this is an incredible little project that he did.
There's
It's
so
just
many times
funny.
where I'm just like, gosh, what do I wear today? If I had an inventory of what I looked like in each one of my outfit combos,
James knows what's
that would be
up.
helpful.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
You know, one of my favorite moments was I was at church. I walked into the reception area going back to my office, and James was at church that day. And as I walked in, you know, I kind of felt a little bit of a chill in the room. And so the receptionist was there. And then finally I asked the receptionist if she could step back, you know, into the hallway. And I says, is everything okay? And she said, well, Pastor James, he just asked me to marry him. And I don't know what to say. And I said, listen, you got to treat him like every other boy. You tell him no. He'll get over it. He'll be sad, but he'll be fine.
What have you guys learned from James?
Well, I think one of the first things I've learned is that, you know, James has his unique characteristics and even limitations that go with the syndrome that he has. Yeah. But my love for James is not any less than my love for every child that I have. And it is a picture for me of how God feels about us. Yeah. We live in a world where, you know what, it's only the winners and the beautiful and the ones who succeed and accomplish that. Those are the people that are valuable. And that's why I think so many people are sad and depressed and down. And I look at James as I know I love him no matter what. I love him exactly the way he is. I couldn't love him more. I love all of my children exactly the same, as much as you're all trying to make me declare who is my favorite.
But if you had to pick, like right now, who would you pick?
you know. And so that has done so much for me, because sometimes I'm not sure if I'm good enough. And then it's like I remember, but you know what, God? I belong to you.
Yeah.
What makes me valuable, what makes me okay, is not what I'm doing, but how you treat me and how you value me and how you love me.
Mom?
You know, I go back to what I prayed when we were first given that diagnosis, and how I prayed that I could make him happy, and that I would know how to help him be the best he could be. And I look back at that, and a few years ago, God just kind of like reminded me of that, and I realized that James is a happy boy. I mean, he's not
so
happy every minute, but in general, he is a happy boy. And it's just like the Holy Spirit just kind of like made this come into my spirit that he's happy because he reflects God's glory. And if you can imagine, and you know, in the Bible it says that God sings over us with joy.
Yeah.
And he is a reflection of the joy and the happiness that God has. And so, yes, I try my best to make him happy and respectable and kind and good and all those things.
You're doing a great job.
But boy, it's God who is pouring into his soul to make him happy. And for him to say when he prays and he says, God, it's me, James, he knows God.
He knows.
And he has the Holy Spirit in him. And I just think, you know what? I'm not in this alone to fulfill every single part that would make this child thrive. I'm doing my best. Y'all have all done your best. But God is the one who is making him thrive and flourish. And I'm going to trust him for all the seasons ahead, just like God has proven in the seasons past.
Yeah.
You know, one thing also that he's taught me is this. We have a lot of discussion in our culture right now about who is worthy to live.
Yes. Yes.
And the idea is, it's so much more magnanimous if you did not allow people with disabilities to even be born, because their quality of life might be difficult and hard. And I'm here to say, James has the best quality of life of anybody. No one enjoys and celebrates life every day like James.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is not a true statement.
Yeah.
as we wrap up, I can't help but think that there might be somebody that's watching this right now because they received a diagnosis of a future baby, or maybe they're holding a baby in their arms. They're just not sure what's life going to be like. The reality has forever changed. Is happiness something in the past? Like, what is in the future? If you could just like take them by the shoulders and tell them something, what would you want to tell that person right now?
Okay, what I would say is it's scary, it's sad, it's hard. But when James was born and I read that verse, count it all joy when you fall into diverse tribulations. You know what? If I had known then what a joy life with James would be, I would not have wasted my tears.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Be encouraged. God is good always in all circumstance. Trust him, surrender to him. He'll help you.
You know, when I think about those who are holding a baby or have a diagnosis and you don't know what it's like, I just want to encourage you. You're not going to do this alone. If you choose to do it alone, it's going to be scarier, but find community, find others. The DSGO here in Springfield, we'd love to come around you. I lead a group for parents from even pre-birth up to preschool, and we get each other, and it is the sweetest thing to be able to share our stories and to learn what we need for our children, and we learn from each other, but I just think about each one of our children are valuable and precious, and if you can get to the point where you see your baby as your special gift from God. And yes, you have a diagnosis, but God is with you in this. Then it's like you can enjoy your baby instead of being like I was, for several days, I was overwhelmed with the diagnosis. But God helped me to come to a place where I was able to see my baby as this most precious gift that God had given me. And I cried out to him for help, and he helped us so much and continues to help us. And then for those who have children like us that are older,
Not so old, but older.
I think about this. God has helped us in every single stage of James' life, and I'm going to trust that he's going to help us as we go further. And late, in the past couple of years, I have just been thinking about, James' life on earth. It's good, but this is temporary.
Yeah. This
is temporary. He's going to spend eternity with everything that works. He can tell us everything he thought of. And I just think that is such a precious thought to me, that someday he's going to tell me what that hieroglyphics that he writes means. And those notebooks that are filled with his feelings, he says. It's his feelings. He's going to be able to tell me exactly what that means. And we're going to spend eternity with him. I don't know what that's going to look like, but this disability, it's just temporary. Yeah. And that has just given me the sweetest peace. And I'm going to do my best for his whole life. And we're all doing our best for him, but we don't do it alone. God is going to lead us and guide us. And I just want to encourage you. I want to encourage you that just ask God to help you. And reach out to the community that can come alongside and encourage you and really be a help to you. It's going to be good. It's better than you can even imagine.
Yeah.
Well, I think I could say on behalf of the siblings, there's this verse in Hebrew. It says, "Remember your leaders, those who spoke the word of God to you. Consider the outcome of their life, and then imitate their faith." You guys have led the way in so many areas, and we just want to thank you so much for doing that. And we see the outcome of how you have walked in faith, and I think all of us look to you as, we want that.
Yeah.
We want what my parents have done. And so thank you so much. Thank you so much for being on the thing that you're going to watch also. And we're so grateful for you. Love you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon.